Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of This Week in Women's Soccer. I'm your host, Jeff Kassouf. You know me from EqualizerSoccer.com as well as this show. Special edition here. We've got Amy Carnell on the phone. She is the general manager of the Seattle Sounders women. And Amy, it was a pretty big week for you, I'd say.
Yeah, you could say so. Definitely excited about the news and the coverage we got with Hope coming back and Sydney. So definitely excited here in Seattle about that.
So for those of you listening who aren't aware, and I'm not sure if many of you listening wouldn't know this by now, but Hope Solo, Sydney Leroux, two U.S. women's national team stars, are headed to play for the Sounders women this year. And I guess the sort of one of the big questions right away was, and not to put you on the spot, I saw in Seattle Times that you had kind of chatted with them a bit about how much they'll be available. I think that was everyone's sort of first question. Can you kind of just give us a breakdown of kind of what you see or what you've talked to them about?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting initially just talking with them about, what is their schedule like, but as of now, I mean, the national team schedule is pretty rigorous heading into the London Olympics, but so what it looks like now is that they'll be available for 4 league games at home at Starfire and then 3 exhibition games at Starfire, so a total of seven games this season. So, and we have seven home league matches, so they'll be there for over half of those, which is nice.
Okay. So that stretch, I'm guessing, is sort of in that June area of kind of when they'll, before it really gets into Olympics, the Olympics really start closing down on them.
Yeah, so the exhibition games will be in early April, 3 against some local colleges here, and then the 4 league games will be spread out May, June, and then 1 in early July.
Okay. Well, that was one of my questions. So the exhibitions are local colleges then? They're not all their W League teams? Or?
So we haven't announced it, but one of the names that I could put out there is UW, so we'll definitely be having an exhibition match against UW. And the interesting part about that is Hope Solo actually went, she played for the UW, so it's kind of interesting having the current UW players get a chance to play against a legend, basically, from, as an alumni. So
yeah,
very neat.
Yeah, it should be fun for her then. Yeah. So
yeah, very, very interesting.
So I mean, this is obviously some huge news. I mean, especially for the club, for the W League. Can you talk about just what? How did this come about? Because there's a pretty quick turnaround from when WPS announced that they were suspending operations to when this announcement came out that these two would be joining you guys.
Yeah, I mean, all of us are obviously saddened by the WPS news, and especially the national team girls. I know they were looking, hey, it's a big year with the Olympics, so they're looking to get as many training dates and playing dates and outside of their national team training camp schedule. And I know that Pia wanted them to kind of stay in the U.S. if possible, and so that was her recommendation. So I know a lot of the national team girls, their first option was the next best league, which is at this point the W League. So, and then I know some of the non-national team girls are looking to play in Sweden and Norway overseas, but with the timing and contracts being in place over there, I know that that's been a challenge for many players as well.
Right. So, I mean, do you think that this kind of opens the door for other women's national team players then, in terms of the rest of the W League?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis, every player is going to look at, different options. I know for Hope in particular, it was, she's from this area, so it's nice. She rarely gets a chance to come back to the Seattle area because of her busy schedule. So that was a perk, and in some ways it's kind of resting up before the Olympics as well, And same with Sid. Sid's from the Northwest originally, right. Vancouver. So nice to get back to the Northwest for those two.
So, Western Conference of the W League, stronger than maybe a lot of people realize. I mean, obviously these two are going to help a lot, even if they're only around for a few games. You mentioned 4 is what you're thinking as of right now. I mean, a lot of people might look at this and say, hey, you have Hope Solo and you have Sydney Leroux in the W League, and kind of put this sort of instant pressure on winning that conference, winning the W League. Is that necessarily a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at it, and from the GM perspective, I'm looking at the overall picture, and that is what's the best thing for women's soccer at this point. For Seattle, I mean, we've had a lot of success with Sounders FC, and there's just, we have such a great market for soccer in this area, so this is our first opportunity to really test what it would be like to have a full women's professional team in Seattle. So I think that's kind of the overall perspective. Do I think it'll help us in the league this year? For sure. But again, we only have those players for roughly 4 home games and potentially 1 away game. So during the season, so will it have an impact? Yes. Do I think it's going to determine who wins the conference? Not 100. Not completely. No.
Right. So. The connection with the Sounders men and women, wanted to ask you, from what I've been told from folks in the north, in the Northwest, in Seattle, that it's growing, and obviously, I mean, you've certainly helped bridge that gap. Can you kind of take me through that? I mean, I think a lot of people don't quite realize that the ownership situation is not necessarily, it's not a sort of a direct thing. It's kind of using the Sounders name. I mean, can you just kind of walk me through how that's been progressing in terms of getting the men and the women on the same page?
Yeah, well, it's actually an interesting story. When Adrian Hanauer purchased the USL franchise back in 2001, 2002, he owned both the men's and the women's team. So up until last year, the women still carried the old USL Sounders logo. And the only connection at that point last year was that Adrian, the current GM of Sounders FC and owner, owns the naming rights of the women's team. And so this year, a little bit of history on myself, as I'm the director of youth programs for Sounders FC, and I've worked for them for the past, 5 years. So when the opportunity presented itself to be GM of the women's team, the first thing I thought of was, how do we bridge this gap? And Sounders FC, they've been remarkable as far as offering promotional support and marketing and you name it, everything that they have available, they're helping us out with. So it's great. It's great to partner, although the ownership groups are separate. They're a big supporter of youth soccer and of women's soccer and the growth of both of those in this area. So we're very appreciative of that, obviously.
Looking at the year ahead now, I mean, in terms of what we're talking about with sort of partnering up, are there things that maybe fans will see that we'll see that are more tangible in terms of kind of being directly working together, the men's and the women's Sounders?
Oh, definitely. And I think it starts from, the announcement about Hope and Sydney. I mean, so our website's about to launch, next week, and so we had an announcement on Sounders FC page, and media outlets from across the country knew about the story when otherwise they may or may not have. One of the things this year is that the Sounders women will be wearing the Sounders FC kit, which we haven't in years past. Just some marketability in general. It's like a lot of people have asked me the last couple of days, hey, I didn't even know there was a women's team. And part of, partnering is bridging that gap so the community is aware that, yes, we do have a women's team, and, we are partnered with Sounders FC.
Right. So the full Rave Green Adidas will be on the women as well, you're saying? Yeah,
so we have a new logo, which is incorporates the Sounders FC crest, and then we will be wearing the full kit, Sounders FC Rave Green kit this year.
Okay. That's I'm sure the Sounders supporters will be happy to hear that. I mean, I'm guessing you're looking to hopefully get some of what we see for the Sounders men in terms of an overwhelming, probably the best support in MLS. out to some women's games?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we want to work with everyone in the community, whether it's Emerald City supporters or it's the youth soccer clubs, the college teams around here. I think it's really the moment for women's soccer to shine, and I think, gathering as many people in the community and getting that support is just essential to our success this year. Mm-hmm. I think with the addition of Hope and Sid, that there's going to be a lot of attention. I'm hoping we're going to sell out. I think that there's a good chance of that at Starfire this year. So
what is the official attendance or the capacity at Starfire? Do you know?
I think it's around 4,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, is there any talks? I know this would be completely out there of trying to, if things go very well with them there, to maybe move it over to a double header, or I mean, is that something that's a bit totally out there?
That idea or that question's been brought up. At this point, I can't mm-hmm. say one way or the other.
Okay.
If we get to a point where we're selling out every game, and there's a need for a bigger stadium, then we can talk about that. But until we get there, let's wait and see.
Yeah. So you mentioned being, or at least, the professional aspect of this. Is this, I mean, obviously we can't talk specifics of salaries and that, but, or compensation. Is this a situation where you will not be able to have amateurs then with the addition of them, or, what's sort of the layout of how Sid and Hope are joining the team?
I mean, at this point, it's really about them coming in and getting games. Obviously, with the big marketing tool of Sounders FC, there's endorsement opportunities for them personally.
Okay.
And that's a perk of being attached at this level. So
right.
That's definitely incentive. And I think another incentive is just them getting back to Seattle and playing in front of their family and their friends as well. So
the W League has kind of talked about their plans for a professional model, a professional sort of sector of the league for 2013 or whenever it may come. I'm assuming that the Sounders are sort of one of the teams that they're looking to as sort of the, one of the model franchises for that.
Yeah, it's so tough to say. I mean, there's so many rumors swirling around about, hey, is WPS even going to come back in 13? Right. If they do, are they going to merge with the W League? There's so many things that are up in the air, and I know in this particular market with some of the ownership, the WPS hasn't presented a financially sustainable model, and until they do, I think that's really what's holding back Seattle and some other West Coast teams from jumping on board is, they need a better model that's going to last beyond, 3 years. So
right.
I absolutely think we have the market for it here in Seattle. It's just, when that time comes.
Right.
It's really dependent. I think this is a big transition year for women's soccer, so a lot will happen in this next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you brought that up, this new WPSL Elite League, the sort of unknown future of WPS, and then a lot of plans that the W League has. I mean, for you, just wanted to get your thoughts on sort of everybody seems to have their own plan here around the country for women's soccer. Is that hurting women's soccer in that no one can seem to get on the same page?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you throw in, the different leagues, and then you throw in some like old school mindset and different factors. But I think what it comes down to is you need everyone to work together and a model that works. So it's like I've heard rumors about WPSL, having a franchise here in 2013, and it's like it's funny that that's news to me and to a lot of people around here. So
yeah.
To me, what would make the most sense is just getting some type of pyramid structure. If W League and WPS were connected, and then W League was like the Division 2, and what I can see happening if WPS survives is that a couple W League teams can step up with a new financial model and have a WPS franchise and build from there. But yeah, you're right. I think the best thing is everyone needs to get on the same page and move forward with a solid plan that's going to, last beyond the 3-year mark.
So, I mean, you mentioned teams that can step up. Reading between the lines a little bit, I guess, but is that, something that the Sounders, is that a goal of the Sounders, assuming that plans can get sorted out and a proper model can be presented?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to speak. I know I've talked to different owners in the area that would be interested in, that's always what it comes down to is, the model is scary for owners going in, knowing you're going to lose $1.5 million a year or whatever the average number was for teams last year. That's tough. I know that there's interest if the model changes, and I think that's kind of the number one determining factor. I think Seattle is striving towards getting there, but a lot needs to change before it actually happens. So.
Okay. Want to ask you, I'm looking at your schedule here. Friday, June 8th, Vancouver at Seattle. Obviously, Whitecap Sounders on men's, women's side. A huge rivalry. There's some tie-in, I guess, with an ex-Whitecap and Sydney Leroux. Could that be one that the fans can look forward to for really? I mean, that could be a huge sort of storyline there.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the games we're working on moving, so that our national team players are actually at home. Just talking with Victoria, I know there is a little bit of resentment for Sydney playing for the U.S. I don't make those decisions. I'm just obviously happy. She's a great addition to our squad, and that's really all I can comment from my side. But I mean, they're just being competitors, and I can't say anything bad about that. So
yeah. Well, it should make for a very fun season out west. Hopefully, things go well, and hopefully, any chance? I mean, I know this is out there of webcasts or anything for. I mean, probably a lot of people who are now very interested in the Sounders women.
I'm sorry. What was that question? Sorry.
Players or fans around the country that are probably now suddenly very interested in the Sounders women. Is there any way that you think they'd be able to follow from afar in terms of webcasts or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, all of that is kind of in the works right now. So I know we're going to do a large amount of coverage on our website, on our Facebook. We may even partner and do something on demand with Comcast. As far as anything live, that's yet to be determined. I think we'll know more, obviously, as we see ticket sales increase. So
yeah, all right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Amy Carnell, thank you very much. Big signing. Sydney Leroux, Hope Solo with the Sounders women of the W League. Thanks for taking the time, Amy.
Yeah, thank you.